Welcome to Radar, Safran's podcast that takes you behind the scenes of aerospace and defense. I'm Kayla Rourke, and in each episode, I meet with guests to explore an exciting topic that shapes our industry.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain, and I'd like to welcome you aboard Flight Safran Radar.
In this latest episode, we'll be diving into the world of electric aircraft. Be it buses, cars, motorcycles, even bicycles, nearly every form of transportation is going electric. But what about aircraft? Are fully electric aircraft still a dream, or are they about to become a reality? More importantly, will they transform aviation as we know it, changing the way we design, build, and fly? To answer these questions, I'm joined by two guests. Florent Nierlich, Technical Director at Safran Electrical Power, who experienced firsthand the certification process of ENGINeUS 100, the electric motor capable of powering fully electric small aircraft carrying 2 to 4 passengers. And Stella Filippatos, Director of the Electric Aircraft Program at CAE in Canada, who will see part of her training fleet equipped with these ENGINeUS motors. So get ready to charge your batteries. We're taking off right now to talk about electric aircraft. Hello, Stella. Hello, Florent. Thank you for joining us.
Hello.
Good day. As I mentioned, electrification is currently one of the hottest topics. In the last few years, we've seen a rise in electric cars, buses, and bikes. We are witnessing a real electrical revolution, and aviation is no exception. So let's start with you, Florent. What exactly does switching to an electric motor actually change for an aircraft?
It will change a lot of things. So first of all, the noise is reduced when you are operating the aircraft with an electrical motor compared to a thermal engine. So no noise coming from the electrical motor. You can just hear the propeller. Then the dynamic is extremely fast. You have a quick response with the electrical motor, like an EV car. So you can accelerate extremely quickly. The climbing phase is extremely fast, and the performance of the aircraft is clearly better. The weight also, the weight balance is quite different with an electrical motor compared to a thermal engine. The weight of the motor by itself is reduced. It's a low weight compared to a thermal engine. So it means that we put less weight at the front of the aircraft, so we can better manage the weight with the battery and the electrical motor within an electrical aircraft. It's better managed, and then the aircraft is more efficient when the aircraft is flying.
Wow, so really a lot of advantages. What would you say are the biggest technical challenges in developing an electric motor for aviation? Because it seems really incredible if you think about it. Getting a plane off the ground with electrical propulsion once seemed almost impossible.
Yeah, you're right. We have many challenges. The first one is the voltage level. You need 800 volts to feed and supply the electrical motor from the battery. So it's quite huge voltage. So at home, basically, you have 110 in the US, or you have 220 in Europe. So it's quite low voltage compared to the 800 volt needed to feed and supply the electrical motor. So it's a huge voltage, and in altitude, it's quite complex to master the insulation of the wires within the electrical motor, considering this very high voltage. So it's a huge challenge to design and to ensure that the insulation system of the motor will remain safe and reliable when the electrical motor is operating in altitude. So that's the first challenge. The second is the thermal management. So the heat of the electrical motor is still quite high. You have approximately 5 kilowatts to dissipate of heat generated by the electrical motor when the electrical motor is operating. 5 kilowatts is basically the heat losses you need to warm up a small flat. So it's quite huge to dissipate and to evacuate. So thermal management is really one of the key challenges and main difficulties that we faced during the development of this electrical motor.
So, Florent, could you tell us a little bit more about how you were able to certify the ENGINeUS motor?
So it was quite intense as a journey. So we started in 2016, first with 5 years of research and technology to develop all the technologies needed for that electrical motors. And starting 2021, we engaged with the EASA. EASA is the European Safety Agency. And basically, they developed and they released all the requirements to certify an electrical motors. So for us, it was quite new because we provide all the means to justify that the ENGINeUS electrical motor could meet those certification requirements. So it has been a great journey. We faced challenges for that because basically you have to demonstrate the robustness of the electrical motor to make sure that the electrical motor could operate in high sink conditions, severe and harsh environment. So it took us 8 months of testing. It has 3,000 hours to be able to certify that electrical motor.
Thanks, Florent. So, Stella, at CA, you're looking to use electric aircraft for daily operations, especially for training new pilots. Why did you choose electric aircraft for this particular use case?
So if you'll allow me first, Kayla, just to share with your audience, CAE Inc., we're based in Canada. We're the worldwide leader in simulator training for pilots. So whenever you take a commercial flight, there's 90%, if not more, chances that both pilots were trained in a CAE simulator. But what is not very well known about CAE is that we also own and operate several ab initio flight schools for pilots that are just starting up their careers. So CAE became the first Canadian aerospace company to become carbon neutral in 2020, and that was via carbon credits. So when we took a look at our carbon emissions over our entire global operations, what very quickly became apparent is that the fuel used by these smaller aircraft in these flight schools at the cadence at which they fly in order to train all these pilots, was really standing out in terms of emissions and environmental impact. So this is a little bit how this program came to be, to convert a Piper Archer to electric propulsion. I mean, the technology was advancing. So, with components such as an electric motor, other players working on, energy storage systems, the batteries, of course, it made a lot of sense to us to take a look at how we could minimize our environmental footprint on a lot of the shorter flights that we do at our training schools. It cannot replace all flights. It cannot do everything because of the range limitations that electric propulsion brings versus conventional fuel. But the technology is well suited for pilot training on very short specific missions that we call A2A. This is why we felt it was a project we wanted to get into.
Great. So as I understand it, you've been able to get feedback from pilots who are using the CAE simulators and who are also in the flight schools that you mentioned. For these young pilots, what changes in terms of their flight experience?
That's a great question. So, first of all, I think that a lot of them see that electric or hybrid propulsion is going to be coming to aviation. So, of course, they're very interested in that. One of the major differences is obviously takeoff weight will be equal to landing weight, as opposed to fuel that gets consumed during flight. At this point in time, when the batteries are being used up, you're not going to throw them overboard from the aircraft, right? So that's one of the noticeable differences. Of course, also now they're no longer going to have fuel gauges on the avionics to tell them how much fuel they have left in their flight, how much range they'll still have. Now it's going to be an energy indication with different curves in the aircraft operating manuals that they'll have to become familiar with in order to predict, how many more maneuvers can they do or when do they need to safely land before the energy runs out. But all in all, I think small differences training for them that will allow them to fly both types of aircraft very easily.
And what are you seeing how your students respond to this technology? Are they embracing it? Do they feel like it's sort of a natural next step in the transition? What do you see?
young people entering the aviation field and wanting to become pilots, they're very sensitive to their carbon footprint. They're very much in favor of decarbonizing as many of their training activities as possible. So definitely anything that, get them in touch with new technology, new aircraft, and at the same time minimize their carbon footprint. This is something that they're very, very enthusiastic about. And it's a great alternative for these very specific missions to the conventional training aircraft. Now, in addition to that, as they evolve into civil aviation aircraft, right, and they move from initial pilot training to go onto commercial aircraft, they have the opportunity there to do all their training on simulators. So it's very natural that some of their initial pilot training also moves to something that reduces their carbon emissions.
So, Florent, electrification is often seen as a solution to environmental issues. Stella was just talking about it, right? Seen as reducing carbon footprint. Is it really more sustainable than current technologies?
It is, especially because you can supply and feed the motor only by a battery. So in fact, you are completely carbon neutral because you have a battery feeding an electrical motor and you can fly with it. Obviously, as Stella said, the range with the battery is quite limited so far with the existing battery. It's progressing, but it's still limited. But you can also increase that range by adding a turbo generator within your system. So you have a turbo generator that will complement the battery. And the turbo generator is a turbine plus an electrical generator. And that will allow to increase significantly the range of the aircraft. The turbo generator is fed by kerosene, but it could be SAF. So basically, we have options now with electrical motor, with battery, with turbo generator. Obviously, that's for small platform. It could be a 4-seater aircraft, or it could be also commuter up to 19 packs equipped with hybrid system. So it's clearly today a reality. It has been a world premiere to be able to certify that electrical motor. So with available battery, turbo generator, is also a product that Safran is developing. We can fly either with zero emission or a reduced level of carbon emission. So that's clearly a reality today.
So you both paint a really great picture of electrical aircraft, the advantages, the benefits, sort of maybe the improvements on a lot of different levels. Just to play devil's advocate really quickly, do you really think it has a real future? Like, is there any danger that this is just the trendy thing to do right now, or even worse, that this could be greenwashing in any way? What do you think, Stella?
So obviously, there's going to be some operational challenges that have to be considered, right? So we need to train our technicians to now manage high voltage, 800 volts, like Florent was mentioning earlier. We need to be able to handle batteries and high voltage harnesses on the aircraft. The reduced autonomy, which obviously is going to change the training curriculum and adapt it. There's airport infrastructure that's going to have to change, right? Today, you're just fueling up your aircraft. You don't have much like electric vehicles, right? All of a sudden now in our cities, we have electric chargers at various points to be able to recharge the cars. Well, the aircraft will be the same. So as you can imagine, figuring all that out in a flight school that has 600 pilots and, many thousands of hours of flight going on every month, 363 days a year. I mean, obviously, it's going to pose operational challenges, maybe specific landing procedures as well. If ever you have an emergency, you might have a specific call out if you're an electric aircraft to be given priority to land, since your energy is going to be depleted a lot faster than your colleague that's in a conventional aircraft. But all in all, I mean, as more players come online and support this market, right, the supply chain improves. I think that once all of that is in place and it happens, user acceptance will, of course, increase. Pilot experience will also provide that insight to future users, of course. The advantages are going to be real. right? So this isn't greenwashing. And I think it's going to attract a lot of professionals that are interested by these new technologies, by these greener, if you will, reduced carbon emission profiles for their flights.
What do you think, Florent? You were saying a few times it's a reality. What's your take?
Yeah, it's clearly a reality. Of course, we'll not fly tomorrow with larger aircraft across the countries, across ocean. For commercial aviation, we'll not fly tomorrow with an electrical motor. The turbine will still be the way to provide thrust to the aircraft. The good thing is that it will be a more optimized turbine. So most likely it will be a hybrid turbine. So it means that with more electrical motors and generators in it, the aircraft of tomorrow will become more efficient. So clearly for all the young engineers, electrical engineers, so that's still a fantastic journey to come to develop those solutions in the decades to come. And I am extremely optimistic for the future.
Thank you, Florent. Thank you, Stella, for this great conversation and for being today's Radars. That's it for this episode. We'll see you soon on Radar.